May gabi sa tanan. I know it's first Sunday and we are going to have our communion afterwards, but murag formal kay mo. So this is supposed to be, according to Kendi, informal, no? Okay. But don't sleep, huh? Well, anyway, may gabi sa tanan. The road to recovery. I would like to make this as our introduction that depending on what gospel you're reading, the accounts of Jesus' resurrection, particularly his appearances, differ across the gospels. In Matthew, it's different. In Mark, it's different. And in John and in Luke, they are different. Reflecting the various encounters with individuals and groups. Let us look at the first encounter after Jesus' resurrection. He appeared first to the first witnesses actually were women. That's the first record of Jesus' resurrection, that indeed Jesus had fulfilled what he had been preaching about himself, that on the third day he will rise from the dead. The second time that Jesus appeared himself to the individual or people during the resurrection time, he appeared to the disciples. Okay? By the way, the women were there to pay their last respect. They were not able to actually do the usual ritual of cleansing of the dead because it was Sabbath day. They have actually hurriedly prepared the body of Jesus. They have actually a tradition on how to prepare the dead and to be buried. That's what the motivation during the first encounter. The second time, Jesus actually appeared, he passed through a closed door. Think about that. He passed through a solid object. He passed through a door and he caught the disciples. They were actually what? They were hiding. The disciples were hiding. They were fearful that they will be arrested. So Jesus, when he appeared to the disciples, he appeared in the middle of their fear. And he appeared using an extraordinary, supernatural expression of his presence. He appeared and he passed through a solid object. He did not knock. Okay? That's one of the supernatural evidence that Jesus actually is beyond the domain of the earthly control. And the other example is that, and the other appearances is that the one is he revealed himself particularly to Thomas. He had a special appearance for the sake of Thomas' doubt. Well, when Thomas was not there, the first time Jesus appeared, they told Thomas, and Thomas said, I will not believe unless I can see and poke my finger into the wounds of Jesus. Only then can I believe. And so Jesus made this arrangement just to address the doubt of Thomas. And the famous saying of Thomas was, my Lord and my God. Okay? I want to believe, help my unbelief. So, my Lord and my God. So, and in other instances, there was also this appearance where they were fishing and Jesus was actually preparing a meal, a breakfast actually. That's the last appearance we have in John 21. Our text is also part of those appearances event. We're actually going forward our text. No, the text chosen for today, this month's 𝐓𝐶 is actually going ahead of the Holy Week celebration. By the way, we will enter Lenten season. The beginning of the Lenten season starts in March 5. Okay? As practice, there will be an imposition of the ash on the forehead or in your palm, depending on the tradition practiced here. So why am I saying this? This particular text, the road to Emmaus, has a peculiar element that actually, while the disciples were afraid and they were hiding, while Thomas had doubts, the disciples, the two mentioned disciples, the other one is not named, but the other one is prominently named as Cleopas. So in those times, the name with S is actually not a name of a woman, but of a man. Like for example, Annas, it's a man's name. Okay? So that was before. Cleopas, no? One of the 12. They were actually what? They were going to Emmaus. What does going to Emmaus signify? They gave up. Hala no dia. They gave up. They hang the cape. Okay? Gihipos tanan. All for nothing. I'll give up. Let's go home. Let's go home. There's nothing here for us in Jerusalem. The things we have passionately pursued for 3 years, following Jesus, all those things we have witnessed in Jesus, we bank our hope and everything. We leave something precious behind just to follow this man, and he is dead. A lost cause. And maybe these two have said to each other, let's go home. Sagdin. Those disciples who were hiding, stay with us, hide with us. The 11 disciples, hide with us. We can weather this crisis. We'll find ways. But probably these two, no, we had enough. We go home. When was the last time you have experienced that kind of emotion? You have given up. Others are saying, no, it's okay. We'll be okay. And some would even say, it's okay not to be okay. And this too, no, it's not. I give up. You go on, but I will look for something else. They went to Emmaus because they were trying to process their experience. And this might be some of the things these two were actually feeling at the time. So for tonight's reflection, I would like to, actually there are many things that we can unravel in this text. The symbolism, the conversations, and the inputs with regards to dealing with crisis. There are a lot of things we can learn from this story. But I would like to focus in answering 3 questions for tonight's reflection. This is a long text, so dili po na ko kayo tason pod, no? Para mabuo na lang. The first question, why was it they were not able to distinguish Jesus? They were not able to recognize. Of course, the obvious reason is that they were feeling what? Down. They were frustrated. They have given up. They have lost sense of the things around them, that they were so focused on what they felt at the time. They have ceased to look around the environment even. Wala na. The beauty around them, the noise and the sound, everything just collapsed, and they were just focused on their feelings. They did not even recognize Jesus, and even for his voice. Take note of that. They did not even know that it was Jesus' voice. Diba? Kung kita gani, when someone calls us, even if we don't see the person calling us, we know by his voice that he is so and so. Oh, si Candice, or si Vince ni, or si she ni. Si na. You know, that's how traumatic the experience was, that they did not recognize Jesus. They were so engrossed with their frustrations. And what is actually the cause of their frustrations? Unfulfilled expectations. The expectations they wanted to see in the life of Jesus did not materialize. You get frustrated because you are expecting something. The cause of your frustration is your expectation. You expect sometimes too much. And sometimes the expectation might not be in consonant with what is the reality around us. Sometimes ang atong expectation is a reflection of our own struggles inside that we impose on someone else rather. And in this case, the spiritual expectation is that they hope, right from their mouth, they said, they hope that Jesus was the one. And they got frustrated because they expected Jesus to be the one. But indeed, was Jesus the one? He was. But he had something else in mind. The way Jesus fulfilled his role did not conform to the expectation of these two disciples. And sometimes we get frustrated because we did not get what we want. And sometimes you deserve it. You deserve that. It's you who put that. God's way, we all know, is different from our ways. God's method is not what we expect that God will actually do for us. We know that. In fact, there are things that Jesus Christ asks us to do, but we are not ready to do. We're not ready to follow. Like, for example, Jesus said, if someone slapped you on the left cheek, give your... Okay. Who's expecting now? Did Jesus expect you to really obey him? Think about that. Think about how frustrated Jesus is many times when he told you, when someone slapped you on the right cheek, give your... Have you? Expectation. Sometimes it's too much. The way Jesus Christ works in our lives is sometimes, and if not many times, is contrary to what we want him to do and how he works in us. There are many surprises. We just let God be God. Let God be God. And we, as creatures, be creatures created. We need to obey. Now, there's a song, trust and obey, for there's no other way. We say cause of frustration, expectation. When it comes to our spirituality, we don't expect too much. We expect God to be God. You expect God to be God. And your reaction to that is what? Trust and obey. So that's the reason why I did not recognize Jesus. They were too engrossed with their emotions. And the other thing, actually, there is a divine and heavenly purpose. It was actually this divine powers that kept them from recognizing him. It's in the text. They were kept from recognizing him. Maybe the reason is that God can have a time to talk these things out together with them. The other thing I would like to answer also based on this text is that, and I want you to reflect on this. So the first question is why? Because they were too engrossed with their own feelings. It should not be. Secondly, the other questions I want us to reflect on is how often, and this is tricky, how often do we walk with Jesus without actually recognizing him? Jesus was there. Jesus was there when they were frustrated. Jesus was there when they got angry. Jesus was there when they gave up. Jesus did not leave them or abandon them. In spite of their decision to give up, Jesus was there with them. And think about the many times Jesus actually was with you, but you did not recognize him. You know, this kind of questioning, or this question in particular, would somehow prompt us to consider the presence of Jesus. Sometimes, as I've said, expectation, the presence of Jesus is not confined to grand and miraculous events. But sometimes the presence of Jesus can be found in ordinary moments. We might have walked with Jesus in the form of the stranger. We might have walked with Jesus in the lives of those who have needs. We might have walked with Jesus every time you have assisted someone in spite of the fact that you yourself needs support. You might have walked with Jesus when you have given yourself to your friend because he needs someone to listen to him, and you listen to your friend. Although at times you feel, I hope somebody also will listen to me. And why is that? Many times we miss Jesus in our lives in the lives of others because we are too focused on ourselves. Remember what Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me." So where is God? So in times of your pain, you're looking for God, but where is God actually? You know, God is always, always with those who have needs. Because the intention of God is to support, uplift those who are in need. And I know many times you had been with people who have needs, even though yourself felt like being depleted. And sometimes we think, 𝐸𝑚𝑚, but you know what? You have helped someone. And when you do that, Jesus was actually there during this time. You know, I've heard someone who said that the best person to inspire an addict is one who is what? Recovering or have recovered from addiction. Diba? Have you heard of that phrase? Ang makasabot sa problema, katong nakaagi sa problema. So what's the remedy of your problem? Help. The best way to get out from your emails is to do something good for the lives of others. Then you can sense that God is there. Because every time there is a need, someone is praying, God will send someone to help those who have needs. And thirdly, and this is what I want to emphasize since we are going to celebrate the sacrament. Only when Jesus lifted the bread, when Jesus broke the bread, the disciples were actually so engrossed and so, how you call that? Maoy, pouring out of their emotions. It was only when Jesus broke the bread that their eyes were open. What does it mean? When Jesus, Emmaus is 7 miles from Jerusalem, west from Jerusalem. And 7 miles, I think, kilometers, it would take, I think, 2 to 3 hours walk. Okay? And during that time, they were conversing. Jesus was actually doing some Bible study from Genesis to Malachi. No? Because Jesus was actually sharing the meaning of the scripture. And as they listened, they felt something inside. But only when Jesus broke the bread that their eyes were open. What does it mean? Sometimes, the best way to remind ourselves of God's love for us happens in the most ordinary things that we often associate the presence of God with. Like, for example, a call from a friend. All of a sudden, you have problems. Then lo and behold, someone called you for no reason. And he asked, "How are you?" Then lipay ka. A tap on the shoulder. All of a sudden, good job. And that's all you wanted to hear. Then revive ka. Tonight, we have the Lord's Supper. The sacrament of the Lord's body and blood. We only have 2 sacraments. And what is the sacrament? The expression of the grace of God. Do you know what the grace of God is? We say the grace of God is Jesus Christ. But what is the grace of God? The grace of God is the very thing that fills every nook and cranny of the universe. It holds the universe together. That's grace. It keeps nature, creation, working according to its purpose. It's what keeps the universe together, the grace of God. And that grace is actually embraced and capsulized in the sacraments. And one of the sacrament is actually the sacrament of Holy Communion. Of all other things, Jesus Christ have in a way asked the disciples to perform of all the things, aside from teaching. Of course, preaching can vary depending on who is talking. But the only things that Jesus Christ asked them to follow in toto is the baptism and the sacrament. Where am I getting at this? Meaning, the sacrament itself, walay words, wala tanan, by itself has the capacity and the power to remind us that God is there for us. By itself, it has the power to bring in us the power we need. Why? Because it symbolizes His body and His blood. It is Christ actually who made it sacred, not the ceremony of the priest or the pastor himself. But by the way Jesus Christ associated Himself with, He said, this is my body. This is my blood. So for those who have come tonight, but still in their own 𝑒𝑚𝑚𝑎𝑢𝑠, Jesus Christ is saying, get out from there and go back to Jerusalem. And the thing that have reminded them of that is the sacrament of Holy Communion. So brothers and sisters, I hope God will speak to you in ways that you can appreciate that God loves you as you partake of the symbol of the celebration we are going to do tonight. God bless you.